We are here in the lab. Now, I got to say this right here. We have a storm going on in my area right here. So the connection, I don't know if the connection is functioning properly, but we're going to go forward. What we got, we're going to go forward. Because all our guests are special. This is a segment of Run Tell That. Brother Jamal Teray in the house. We got Sister Sabrina in the house. One, I guess, glad to have our sister back with us all the time. We guys also joining with us. We got Dr. Deidre Grimm also with us in the house. We got Brother Shaka with us in the house. And Brother Andre, glad to have all you all here Run Tell That. And I hear a bell going off. So I don't know what that is about right now. But we say to everyone, share, share, share. And so, again, how are you all doing?
Pretty good.
Oh, doing well.
Wow.
All right. So we're going to flow into it. This is what we talk about. This ain't your mama and daddy show right here. This is what we're going to roll into it. So we're going to do this. Dr. Deidre Grimm, who are you?
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Deidre Grimm. I'm the CEO of Ivory Bay Community Development Corporation, as well as the principal and owner of Grimm Consulting Group. A very staunch advocate when it comes to racial justice and health equity, and I'm here for it every day, all day. So happy to be here.
All right. Sister Sabrina, of course, people have seen you on the show before, and we said everyone out there, we love all y'all, appreciate all y'all. We say share, share, share. Sister Sabrina, for those who are checking in for the first time, who are you?
Oh, I am Sabrina, and I am a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a sister. I'm a wannabe farmer. I'm everything.
All right. Yes, indeed. And so we got some other guests join us for the first time. Brother Andre, who are you?
I am the son of Jimmy and Marie Mountain, both educators. I am the younger brother of Jeffrey Mountain, and I'm an educator myself. I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, I'm a scholar, I'm someone who's learning, and I'm someone who's in the struggle, for Black liberation and the education of our young people.
All right. And so, Brother Shaka, who are you?
Good afternoon or evening. I am Shaka Barrett. I'm a social worker by trade. I'm also a mental health and youth development professional. I'm a father, a grandfather, a twin brother, a friend, an avid sports fan. I write poetry. I love Black people, and I've made it my mission to try to help people be the best versions of themselves.
All right. So now we're going to do this right here. We do this in the community. Y'all know Black folks. This is what we're going to do, Black folks. Y'all know. Now, see, some of y'all checking out the show. Some of y'all don't understand it. Some other people come on. They don't understand it because, again, they be missing the experience. So I got to do this right here. The question is, who are your people? Brother Shaka, who are your people?
I'm originally from the DC metro area. So I have family that traces its roots to Jamaica, Bermuda. I have some Puerto Rican lineage. There's some Nigerian in the United States. I have family in New York, Boston. And so mainly from Virginia. So mainly Virginia, New York, biologically. And then I have a bonus mom, and her family's from Boston. Came down here for college. My family is very much about academics. And so that's what brought me to Atlanta originally. And so that's a little bit more about who I am.
Okay. Brother Andre, who are you? Who are your people? because you gave some of it out. But I'm sitting here, I said, why Andre going like that? We're going to get to that. But go ahead. Go further into it. Yes.
Go further into it. Well, my people are from Washington County area, Sandersville area, Tennille, Harrison. My mother and father both raised in that area. And a lot of my family still lives there. But going back a little further, we're out of West Africa. We came in through those seaports, and the slave block in Louisville, Georgia. And a lot of my family is still in Louisville. Last name Mountain, last name Sampson, Reeves in the Washington County area. So, we have a strong legacy there. But now we're all over the country and all over the world.
Absolutely. The Elijah Muhammad's out of Sandersville, and then also some other great leaders also out of Sandersville. But then also Washington County, also known for the girls basketball team, making it happen. And so now he want to throw some stuff on out there too. He want to throw some stuff out there about Louisville. Louisville right there used to shut down at 12 o'clock on Wednesdays, because that's when it was about the auction of African people, and they were still doing that into the 20th century. So hell, that's what I'm saying. That's what goes on. So, Sister Sabrina, who your people? Because other people I heard you talk about. So now, who your people, Sister Sabrina?
Who are my people? Well, I'm a Georgia transplant. I'm originally from the DMV, the Washington area. My mother's family, side of the family, actually held, they're foundational Black Americans. So they hail from North Carolina. They are descendants of slaves. And my father's people actually hail from the continent.
All right.
So that's
all right. And Sister Deidre, who your people? So, she gonna try to show off.
You know what, Dr. Saray, or is it Jesus today? Which one is it?
It's always the same. That's right. It's Jesus. That's right. In the house.
Well, I be Geechee. I hail from the Charleston, South Carolina area. My grandmother, who raised me, was the dean of business at South Carolina State University in Orangeburg County, South Carolina. And then by way of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, my grandfather started the first Black pharmacy in the state of Florida. My people are Dashes, Grants, Rufuses, McNairs. So nonetheless, I am proud of the lineage that I have. I am grateful for being, as the sister said, a foundational Black person, because even though we were brought here by force, we built this place. And so I want everyone to recognize the strength in our people, because at the end of the day, if we don't protect ourselves from racism, but especially our children, nobody else is going to do it.
Absolutely. And so with regard to this segment, this show that we're going to be dealing with, it is tied to something that Dr. Deidre Graham, her family, her grandmother was her mother involved in what we know as the Orangeburg Massacre at South Carolina State University today. And so again, the Orangeburg Massacre, one of those great moments, pivotal moments for our story and the fight for liberation. So that I thought she was going to bring that, because sometimes she bring that up. She was like, that her family was the impetus for the Orangeburg Massacre with regard to Black folks. And so, so that's the power. And so now we come to this, Brother Andre. Who inspires you? What inspires you? Who inspires you or what inspires you?
I'm inspired by the work of John Henry Clark, Asa Hilliard. I'm inspired by Carter G. Woodson, Gwendolyn Brooks, Maya Angelou. I'm inspired by those folks who pushed against oppressive systems, through their scholarship, through their pen. And what inspires me? Courageous people, just courageous people, even in my everyday life, just seeing folks who are courageous. I'm in a school district where, we have a board member who's very courageous. Her voice is so courageous. And we need more of that, because we have so many scared folks out here in these schools who could do so much if they were not so frozen with fear or just paralyzed for their own professional gain. They just sit and watch things happen, and they speak in private, but they could do so much. So I'm inspired by courage.
All right. And see, because again, we see with regards to some of that, that's why also people go and spread misinformation. Again, those people, they are afraid they spread misinformation about Tompkins High School, foolishness like that. But go ahead, Dr. Deidre Graham. Who inspires you? What inspires you?
So, of course, just being grateful to grow up in the household that I grew up in. My grandmother inspired me. She persevered through it all. Ironically, she was not just started, or she was not just the impetus of the Orangeburg Massacre. She started the first Black Catholic church in the state of South Carolina, because she saw that that was a place of power. And so she inspired me every day. But then I have people like yourself and Alderwoman Lanier, Alderwoman Gibson Carter, I still call her that, and Alderwoman Alicia Miller Blakely, that inspire me. I can look at our DA here, our tax assessor, just the ability to make those strides, even in the midst of systemic oppression, and even looking at the voting and how we have been barred from the polls, as well as looking at the aspect of just not having people that really represent us on the ballot. So I'm grateful for people such as themselves, people who are innovative and creative, and make a way out of no way. But I'm also inspired by this next generation, the people, I call them the people downstairs. They inspire me because Alderwoman Lanier has a statement where she says they would have rather dealt with her than with them, because this next generation is not going to take any wood nickels. But I'm even more inspired to even push forward, because I have 2 sets here. I have 6 and 2 on the couch, and just looking forward to what they're going to do and how they're going to tear up this system. So I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. And with regards to this, we have people from looking at the show from around the entire world. We're glad to have all y'all. And so, Brother Shaka, who inspires you? What inspires you?
It's a lot of people who inspire me. The biggest that inspires me is just love, trying to love myself better, trying to teach other people how to love themselves better. The love that I have from family members who've loved me through situations, the love that I feel from ancestors, whether it be through a book, whether it be through a lesson. I'm just listening to some of the stories that have been shared already today. That love to just persevere and make it over is really what's one of the biggest things that inspires me.
Okay. And Sister Sabrina, what gives you inspiration?
What gives me inspiration, like the sister said, the little ones, the ones that come behind me, the ones that call me mom, the ones that call me teacher, the ones that call me sister. Those are the ones that inspired me. And the ones that inspired me are the ones whose shoulders that we stand on. The ones that are counting on us to finish up the mission that they started. That's what inspires me.
So some of y'all probably realize that I was like hesitant with Sister Sabrina, because Sister Sabrina tried to run me. Sister Sabrina just ain't trying for me. She's farming. I tried not to do certain things, but Sister Sabrina tell me what to do. So we're gonna be getting into this right here. We're gonna go to a break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna flow right to the subject matter. That's why I just like Sister Sabrina. I did report to her today about something that's gonna happen in the fall. So again, but this is Run Tell That. We got Brother Andre, Brother Shaka, Sister Deidre, Sister Sabrina. We Run Tell That on Our Black Media. We said everyone share. We're coming right back and flowing into this conversation.
All right.
Hello, I'm Richard Coleman, and I'm running for the office of Sheriff of Chatham County. And when I'm elected, I promise to inspect what I expect. Chatham County, it's time for a change, and that change is me, Richard Coleman.
We are back. It's Run Tell That. And we have with us Sister Sabrina, Brother Andre, Brother Shaka, and Sister Deidre. So now we deal with this issue that, again, what we've had conversations with people, and I tell folks racism. Racism is as un-American as apple pie. Because people love apple pie. And there are people who love racism. They engage and they put it out there. And so we deal with racism, I say from the cradle to the grave. We see racism, we do it from the cradle to the grave. And with regards to that, I tell folks, African people in particular, we experience racism from the womb. From the womb. Some of us African people experience racism from conception. The very conception of some of us was based on racism. And then guess what? We have our elders, we have those of us who are the adults, and then the young people who experience it also. And so Black families have been dealing with this, trying to shield, trying to protect their children with regards to racism. And one of the things that I have witnessed with regards to the George Floyd situation, with regards to the driving while Black situation, the walking while Black situation, the living while Black situation, that I've seen people, very well-to-do African people, not sit their children down and not discuss how they should function, how they need to work, with regards to not causing harm to themselves. All that's tied to racism. And so we're going to flow into this right here. So Sister Sabrina, as a parent, how do you deal with the issue of racism with regards to your children? Because you have young children in your care, and you also deal with young brothers and sisters. So how do you deal with racism and with regards to our children being able to navigate and walk through all of that? Sister Sabrina, well, if Sister Sabrina frozen, we go Sister Deidre. Oh, Sister Sabrina. Okay. So, Sister Deidre.
Sure. Unfortunately, you would think in a predominantly African American school system that you wouldn't have instances of racism being so prevalent. But last year alone, I had 2 instances, one with one of my older children and one with my daughter, who's only 6 years old. And you have to be firm. You have to go to the administration and push the needle and push the bucket and tell them that you're not going to move, because they'll just sweep it under the rug. And I have no animus towards our school system here. It's just that some of the leadership at some of the school are not culturally competent as they need to be. And so some things just it's okay. It was just subtle. No, it's not just subtle. If there's a Caucasian child telling my daughter her hair is ugly because she has braids and beads, I take serious offense to that, because that's coming from her household. It's not just coming from the child. And so when you're in areas of that, when your child is navigating those spaces, they need to understand that you are their advocate. You're there to show up for them, and that you will not allow them to be diminished or their light to be, turned down because they may look different. And so it also takes, helping and educating our children that their greatness, that they're beautiful, but also, as the brothers have said, where they come from, the resilience of our people, and also holding, the administration to their feet to the fire. And I don't have a problem with that. I tell anybody, I'm okay with being the victim. I mean, the bad guy. I don't have any problems with that. So just come and tell me the issue. My kids know I'm gonna show up, and I show up for their friends too. If there's an issue, then that's just what I have to do, because we are all we got, honestly.
Okay. Brother Shaka.
So everything that was just mentioned, I agree with. I think that the few things that I might add is, protecting our children from racism is, number one, educating them on what racism is so that they can be prepared to deal with it. It's creating safe spaces for our own children or our community children so that they have an opportunity to recharge and rest from whatever they might be dealing with, because racism, whether overt or covert, happens every day. But I also think, as she mentioned, it's making sure that our children know that we as parents and advocates will go to war for them when it's necessary, so that they feel protected. We can't always be there in every situation that they're dealing with physically, but we can be there with the lessons that we teach them. We can be there with the affirmations that we instill them with, in them, and we can be there with them knowing that we have their back if something does happen.
Okay. All right. And Brother Andre.
Well, I think it's important that we prepare our children to engage in struggle. Ground can be lost, and we're seeing that every day as we look at the news and we see what's going on with the Supreme Court and the voting rights and all of those things. So our students, our children, our own personal children have to understand that you have to be prepared to engage in struggle, whether it's, through the legal system or advocating for yourself, when things aren't right, advocating for yourself, speaking up for yourself, because you're standing on the shoulders of giants, and folks have worked too hard and fought too long for us to just let all of that go and lose ground, because people are actively pushing in the other direction. And so I just think even in education spaces, there's so many things that still need to be done. When you open up textbooks and you don't see the representation of students, or you see historical facts that have been flipped, where it's just incorrect information being told to children at an early age. And then you have to go later on in higher ed and they find out, oh, I didn't learn it that way. You're 18, 19 years old when you're finally learning the real history about America, when you could have learned that in elementary school, but we teach these fairy tales. So you have to have people, educators in space, who are willing to say, well, here's another text I want to show you, or here's a video clip and let's discuss this video clip. But you got to be so strategic now, because the system is set up in some states where you can actually lose your certificate if you go in and you kind of disrupt the status quo. So it's becoming more and more difficult, but it's work that has to be done on many fronts.
Okay. So, Mr. Producer, I think Sister Sabrina. Okay. Sister Sabrina, the question we pose to folks is like, as a parent, how do you address this issue of racism for our children to be able to meander through, to navigate through all of this right here with regard to the protection? So that's what we've been addressing. So we throw that out to you right now.
I think that you have to let them know that they can come to you and that it's okay to self-advocate. They have to feel safe enough to be able to say, hey, mom, dad, teacher, counselor, this is happening to me. They have to be encouraged to come and to notify you and not just dismiss it as something that happens.
Okay. All right. So what are some of the concrete things that we need to be doing to strengthen our children with regards to this? Brother Andre.
Concrete things, help having them debrief.
I'll back up. It's a myriad of them. That's why I just want to throw it out there, because I want people checking us out right now that, you can throw something out there. Sister Deidre, throw something out there. I want people to hear that some of the concrete things that's going on, because some of y'all alluded to it, but you're getting into it because it's a fear. And I'll throw it out there. We've had Dr. Umar Johnson on the show, and that's why, people know I've done programs with him. And he talked about, again, the advocacy that's needed with regard to that. And there's a myriad of stuff need to be done. So I'm just throwing it out at this moment, at this time, for you, just ponder other jewels that you think that people need, again, them jewels that people need to have.
Well, I'll throw this one out, starting with a very clear and solid understanding of who you are as a person. You start the show off that way. Who are your people? You got to start with the knowledge of self. That's a good place to start with. Who are you as a person? What's your lineage? What's our heritage? What are the things that we're about as a people? What's important to us? And then you go from there.
Okay. And Brother Shaka. You're muted.
Oh, my apologies. I'm going to go ahead and piggyback off of that and say, once you have an understanding, it's really immersing them in environments that celebrate and love them. So it's not just, I understand who I am. It's, I love who I am. I celebrate who I am. And so they need to be in spaces, from religious spaces to school spaces to home spaces, that let them know that they are loved, that they are celebrated, so they can love who they are as well as understand who they are.
Okay. And Sister Sabrina.
I think letting them know that you are there to support them. You know, most kids or anybody, they don't feel supported. They're like, hey, how are people going to respond to this? And if they know that they're safe and they know that, hey, I can report this, there's something that's going to be done about this. I'm just not on the island by myself. I think that that serves as a starting point as well.
Okay. And Sister Deidre.
So one of the things that you hear a lot here, especially in the South, is that's a good school district or that's a bad school district. It's when it comes to resource allocation, right? Equitable funding for schools. So our kids don't feel that they're going to a school that is lesser than someone else. So the altercation that one of my children had was with another school, and it was they were playing a sports. It was a sport event, and so they felt it was okay to taunt him and tease him, and aggravate him because they went to the better school. Well, why would they feel superior if they weren't getting more funding than some of the other schools around, right? And then it also comes with the cultural competency when it comes to teachers and the leadership in education. And we can't just move from that. We have to ensure that it is embedded, not just talked about, but embedded in throughout and interweaved throughout the school system, because our kids are being treated like they are on their way to prison, right? And in some of these schools. And so I'm a staunch opponent of, or a staunch advocate in dismantling the prison school pipeline, the school to prison pipeline, because it starts with the funding, and it starts with those wonderful school districts with those grades on US News, and what's the other one, that grades niche or whatnot. And so if that can be transformed, then we'll also have a more equitable school system as well.
Okay. So this is going to get a little personal right now. It's going to get a little personal, and it might be some of y'all might be a little bothered by this and not necessarily want to say address it. Why are we afraid? Why are the adults afraid to address and confront this? Why are adults afraid to address and confront this, Brother Shaka? And when I'm saying adults, I'm talking about African American adults. Why African American adults, parents, grandparents, guardians afraid to address this?
So I think a large part of the reason stems from complacency. I think that we, as a people, in a lot of ways, have lost sight of the fact that we're still involved in an active, ongoing struggle. As much as I don't want my children to grow up in a certain environment, it's good that some of these things are being rolled back. It's good that some of these things are coming to light. It's good that there's certain adversities, because that tends to be when we as a community are more engaged in fighting for something. And so I think that there are a lot of parents who are either A, complacent, B, they've arrived in their own regard, so they don't feel like they're facing that kind of struggle. But I think we also don't need to lose sight of those individuals who are just impacted by the struggle, who every day, from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, they're just trying to survive. And so you can tell them everything that's going on, but I don't know if my lights are going to be on. I don't know how I'm going to feed my kids. I don't know if my car is going to get repossessed. And so struggle is what I already live. You want me to add to that struggle when I can't even survive. And so I think that that part of our community doesn't need to be lost, as well as, individuals struggling with addiction, mental health. And so there's a lot going on that can stop people from really being, united and focused on what we need to be doing.
Okay. Sister Sabrina.
I think it's one of those things where if I keep my head down and I'm quiet, it won't touch me. People are afraid. We always tell our kids, be good, behave, don't cause a problem. That way you don't draw any attention, you don't draw any attention to yourself. And also, as the brother was saying, we think we have arrived as an adult. It's better than it was than before. You don't have it as bad. Or as a parent, I have paved this way. I've bulldozed this way for you so that you don't necessarily have to go through that. I've shielded you from this. And then the child goes through something and it's like, what happened? Then all types of feelings and everything like that comes into play. Again, I think it's you keeping your head down and you making the decision not to cause a fuss. And we think because we don't cause a fuss, we don't make a ruckus, our children are perfect, they're getting good grades, they're athlete, that is not going to touch them.
Okay. Brother Andre.
I agree with what Shaka said. I think the pressures of life is on the shoulders of a lot of families, just trying to make ends meet, trying to keep a roof over your head, stay in a safe neighborhood. And sometimes those things take precedent to some other things that need to be discussed. So I really think the financial pressure is big, but I also think for those who that may not be as big of an issue, people have a mentality that if I move to a certain neighborhood, or if my child can just sit next to a certain type of kid in class, then all of the problems go away. And what we don't realize is that sometimes when we think we're putting our kids in a great space, we're actually putting them in a space that traumatizes them. And we don't know how they're treated, in the classroom, how they're treated by certain teachers in certain communities. And we think we've done this great feat. But what we've actually done is disconnected our child from something that may have been psychologically more healthy for them in those formative years. Because let me tell you something, I want to touch on something that we were talking about earlier in terms of young people. When you are an adolescent, your peer group becomes a lot more influential than your parents. And if you're in a space where the peer group is toxic, that's going to try to almost counteract everything that you're pouring into a child as a parent. And so you got to be so cautious of where you place your child, the environment, the classroom setting. What is the teacher saying? What are students saying on the bus? What is my child immersed in for 6, 7, 8 hours a day? So by the time they get to me, I have to try to cleanse them of all of this. So that's what I want to add. I think people's pressures have become economic, but then sometimes we do things that add fuel to the fire.
Okay. Absolutely. Sister Deidre.
I agree with what everyone has said. And I also want to add that sometimes parents are afraid of retaliation towards themselves and their children. And so that stifles them and keeps them from talking because, their children may get a bad grade. I've had some of my children say not to say something because they would be graded unfairly or poorly because me saying something about the way something had been resolved. And I think sometimes also a lot of us, because of the pressure of life, are afraid of the confrontation. We steer shy of it just for the fact of, creating a more hostile environment for our children as well. And so I think it also boils down to ensuring that, we understand the proper channels too, because that handbook or whatever they give out at the beginning of the year, that's 40 pages of paper. And who wants to really read through that to navigate the process of advocating for their children unless you get to that place? And so it comes from a lot of different areas, whether it be lack of information and knowing how to navigate and steer this conversation, but also when it comes to dealing with, as y'all can hear, I'm sorry, y'all, life is happening. But nonetheless, when it comes to, ensuring that our kids aren't pressured or retaliated against when we are speaking up for them or they're speaking up for themselves as well.
Yes. And some of y'all said some things, so I'm going to throw out a situation to y'all and just get your thoughts with regards to that, because there are some nuances to it, but then some of it applies, the overall principle applies to many of the people who are checking out the show, and again, to some of us right here. You have a situation that someone lives in North Georgia, African Americans live in North Georgia, and it is, again, the Congresswoman. Y'all know who's the Congresswoman of North Georgia. She's not a very intelligent person. She's racist. We understand that. And also illiterate and ignorant. So she is there. That's where they live at. So this parent, she is concerned that she sees an email that is sent to her son that tells him that he has to stand up, he has to be a leader. Again, an African professor sends him the email saying, you got to stand up, you can't be silent, you got to speak out, you have to stand up. And so you are supposed to be a leader, not of tomorrow, but a leader of today. And so also, he's not getting information that's tied to Dr. John Henry Clark. He's getting information that's tied to Dr. Ben. He's getting that information. And so then the mother contacts the professor and says, you can't be teaching him that type of stuff because he has to come back here. He has to live here. And so this mother says that because she's a businesswoman, she's acquired some economic success there. And she wants her son to come back. But then her son is so reticent, so quiet at times when he could speak out. He refuses to speak out in a situation where it's an environment that he can't speak out in. So what do you all say to that? Because again, that's some of the parents that we're talking about right now. That's some of the people we're throwing out there. What is the type of advice that you would give to that parent right there? And we go to Sister Sabrina. What type of advice would you give that parent?
First of all, I would think we have to, validate the mom's feelings. Her feelings are valid no matter what, because she may know that there are some things that can happen, but you also have to assure her that this is his life. And for him not to speak up or say or decide to remain quiet, that is his choice. And that he is going to have to deal with the consequences, whether it's negative or positive going forward. I mean, one of the things we don't want to do is push a person that is not ready to fight that fight in that fight, because it can backblow on them and affect them mentally, physically, and spiritually. I will let her sit down with some people in the community, both of them, so that they can really knock through the pros and the cons of the situation. I would not send him up there to fight that by himself if he's not ready to. And I also would, talk to the mom. I have people in the community talk to the mom so that she can understand what is going on, validate her feelings, but also understand that it's the child's life as well, or the student's life.
All right. So now I'm gonna break it down and get even deeper. It was in the classroom. It's in the college classroom. You're not telling your child that he can't even think. And this parent called me. I got to sit down in Kroger's. I'm sitting down in Kroger's talking to validate. I got to sit down and I'm like listening to this. I'm listening to this parent. So she's saying, so now I'm gonna give you the other side to it. In another situation, her son is quite vocal and all that. That's why I tell people, I said, listen here, you can't tell me that you want to be a coach and you can't even speak up. You can't tell me that. But you do that in that environment. But now, here go the mother. And so I'm going to throw it out there. Brother Shaka and Brother Andre was saying this right here about gaining knowledge of self, essentially. So I'm like listening to this right here. I'm saying this mother is basically trying to dumbify her own child so that way to not get along in this environment. And guess what? Not knowing your history, do you think in Rome, Georgia, in Dalton, Georgia, that we didn't stand up? We did stand up. But see, that's why I'm just throwing it out. So I won't get say, yes, I was the person who had to listen to this mother and then talk to her about this. And I've listened to some very contradictory things. And that's why I want other people, because I said some things that, again, I'm like saying, listen, I see your son do other things. But now you tell me in the classroom that he's not going to speak up, because guess what? I'm saying that there are Caucasian professors who like that type of stuff, seeing this young black man not stand up and speak out. So I'm saying to him, no, you got to speak out. It's not even going back to Rome, Georgia, going to Floyd County, or going to Dalton, or going to LaGrange. It's in the academic environment, this safe space. So I'll throw that out to Brother Shaka. What do you say to that mother? What do you say to that parent? Because he'd be a mother and a father, all with that mentality.
I keep forgetting to unmute, my bad. I agree. I think that, recently I had a personal experience where somebody really challenged me by asking me, and they said, if you really wanted this that you're pursuing, that you're going after, why were you not ready for it? And I thought to myself, ready for it? And yes, ready for it. You knew this is something that you wanted to do. So you can't just meet a moment that you haven't prepared for. And I think like was said before, we have to realize we are not properly preparing our young people to meet these moments. And so when these moments come, it's not fair, because some people might be built like that. But most people are not built like that. They have to be trained, educated. They have to know they have support. Maybe the mom needs to know that she has support, because I hear a level of fear in her voice. A lot of that stems, as we all mentioned, that stems from all the way back on plantations when we were taught, how do we silence our children so that they don't get sold off, so that they don't get killed? Mothers protecting sons. So there's this whole situation that's going on that's layered. And it's not just simply saying you need to speak up. It's trying to get him to, again, be confident, be comfortable. Maybe that's not his way of doing it. So can we teach him some other routes that he can use to advocate for himself? Because sometimes in the wrong environment, speaking up can be a problem. And so it's really being a little bit more strategic, but then also understanding that we as a community have failed that young man, because he might feel more comfortable advocating in spaces where he sees himself. So you mentioned something about coaching. If I'm coaching young boys that look like me and parents that look like me, that's not the same as being in a space where I might be the only black face in the space. And so that has to be taken into consideration, that humanity component. And then what have we as a community done to prepare him specifically, or our children in general, for these types of moments?
All right, I'm adding another layer to it. You're in a class on African American history with an African American professor, and they say everybody in the class except for 2 people are Caucasian. So you're in that place, and that is just merely to ask you your opinion. So I got to throw it out there. And Brother Andre, this was at Georgia Southern University. And this was an experience that I had at Georgia Southern University. And we're not talking about 2000. We're not talking about 1990. We're talking about 2023. Okay. This is 2023. You're in, and so you are saying you can give your opinion with a black man, with a room full of black people, who other black people get, and you are reticent about that. So, Brother Andre, so that's why when we talk about these spaces right here, and that when we saying being a leader, like I have to back up, share this with y'all. My people at Savannah, I taught at Savannah State University also, and I would tell people, not just at Savannah State, I had a youth group come from Atlanta, Georgia, and I told them, I said, you are lead us up today, not tomorrow. And guess what? The people around them like, yeah, y'all so getting us support. Then they're like, yeah, I said, you are lead us up today. And I said, when I give you information, you know more than your parents and your grandparents. And so I told people, I had a group today. I said that when those young people get that information, their chest is up like that. Because now they know they got something that others don't know. So, Brother Andre, how do you address some of that right there? Because this is a part of what we're dealing with. That I'll share this with you. I tell folks this: some of us want somebody else to be the Messiah. Stop trying to look for a Messiah. The Messiah is in you. So go ahead, Brother Andre.
So are we still talking about the young man or who was in the class?
Yeah, I'm just saying that it is true. So again, how do you talk about get those people, again, that support system? How do you get that parent? Because again, that fear, but going just like Shaka said, that some of it is so embedded in us, even though we think that we have achieved, we are still captive Africans.
All right, I'll say this, and this is just being honest, because we just having a conversation. When I'm sitting in the college class,
yes, sir.
When I was sitting in a college class at Georgia Southern, whether it was African history or U.S. history, the furthest thing from my mind was what my mother was thinking. You know, to me, that was a space for me to grow into my manhood, to find my own voice, to hear my own voice, to hear other people's perspectives. I was not sitting there thinking, what would my mama think? It was a space where I needed to get away. That's part of the reason I left, to go away to school, you know, to try to find out who I was, because K-12 just did not get me there, as it does not get most of our young people there. You learn about who you are as you get out there and try to manage a little bit of money. And, you know, you have to try to make some life decisions about whether I'm going to go out or study, or I'm going to, you know, am I going to do the paper at the last minute, or I'm going to do it a piece at a time? You start developing your work ethic and who you are as a person. So I say all of that to say, in a classroom, the furthest thing from my mind is, what would my mother think if I said this or that? I'm really learning from the people in the room. My experience at Georgia Southern, graduate and undergraduate, was very different. Undergraduate, it was really diverse, you know, interactions and people from Metro Atlanta, rural Georgia, and having some really good conversations. By the time I got to graduate school there, the conversation was a little different. I often found myself as the only Black person in the room. And when questions would come up about the Black experience, you know, gradually the heads would turn toward me. And, I had to step up and share, hey, this is just my experience, my perspective. But in a general sense, we see a lot of these same experiences of African Americans. I think about Derek Bell, the article in 1992, Racial Realism, where he talked about the struggle by Black people to obtain three things: freedom, justice, and dignity, is as old as this nation. And so that's not a new conversation. Folks get uncomfortable talking about it, but what he suggested was that this whole idea of racial equality is not even realistic, because we're going to always have to be fighting against issues of racism in this nation. We talk about a president getting immunity. This guy has been charged with so many crimes. If that's not the most blatant representation of white supremacy, I'm not sure what else I can offer to help you understand that there are things in this society that are so blatantly skewed that, we have to always be prepared to fight, to address, to speak up. And then we're not even talking about the criminal justice system yet, how it oppresses Black people, the percentages. And then coming from the educational space, I'm looking at this propensity, this tendency to just constantly want to diagnose kids for special ed. Let's put them over here in special, put them over in special, put them over in special ed. Well, maybe the damn school system is not serving their needs early on. And so you want to blame the child instead of addressing the root of the issue. Maybe it's that classroom. Maybe it's those resources. Maybe it's the pace that you have everyone learning at, and we don't all learn at the same pace or in the same way. So I have so many concerns and things that sometimes when you're in certain roles, you can't say those things. I'm gonna give you this example, then I'm gonna pass the mic, but I want to share this. I was in a leadership role at a school, and we wanted to do a mural project. And I picked out several murals, several images that I showed the artists. And, it included Marcus Garvey, Haile Selassie, even Bob Marley, because the population of the school was very diverse. It included East Africans, West Africans, Caribbean folks. So we're trying to give everybody a nod in terms of the murals. I had to get approval from someone from the district, and this was an African-American male who went to an HBCU, by the way. This gentleman said to me, well, I think we need to be culturally neutral with the murals. So here I'm trying to push the envelope culturally, but yet folks in a higher position of power are saying, don't do that. We want to keep everybody neutral. How can you be culturally neutral? And so these are the structures that you have to continue to fight against. So we ended up doing the mural project, but we had to move strategically to get it done. We had to submit one thing, but then we had to kind of make it work, in our own revolutionary way. So I share that to say the struggle continues. It's about pushing the envelope.
Absolutely. And Luther continuous. So Deidre Graham.
So this may not be politically correct, but in the instance with the mother, I would have to sit down and have a conversation with her to help her understand she's emasculating her son, right? As a Black woman, we need more Black men. And I'm glad that you all are here right now today to stand up in this fight and the struggle, because we've had to take it on by default. And we don't want to necessarily have to do this by ourselves, but we do it because we love our children and we love our community. And so nonetheless, this is the ability for this young man to raise his voice, raise awareness, and create awareness around these issues, as well as, creating that next generation Black to be able to continue this fight, because the fight will continue, unfortunately. And so as a mother, I'm probably the one who's up here telling my son, well, no, you can't back down. You have to sit up here. You have to go through these proper channels, because if not, they'll sit up here and just diminish you and put you to the side. You have to be very vocal in order to get what you need and what you deserve. And so in this instance, this mother has to, I understand. I would, like Sister Sabrina said, I would tell the mother, while I understand your concerns, we're not here to put your child in a space of harm, but also you're putting him in a space of harm, because if he does not, be able to stand on his own 2 feet and be able to voice his concerns and the situation, then what happens when he makes it out to the real world and they, give him the scraps or pennies or pay him less than his counterparts, right? Then he's here perpetuating the cycle of struggle. And so, I feel like we have to give all Black people that space, but especially our Black men, because they should be able to continue to help, change this trajectory. Because, slavery did our Black men in something serious and gruesome and horrible. And I want to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore.
Cool. We're going to go to our very last break. Then we'll come back and let y'all give some solutions with regards to this. How do we improve? Again, these are steps, not to say it's the planting of seeds. So, Mr. Producer, we go to our last break. That. And we have with us Sister Sabrina, Brother Shaka, Brother Andre, Sister Deidre. We are glad to have y'all. And we're not coming to the closing minutes with regards to Run Tell That. But we say support our advertisers. That's Davis Johnson Bozeman Law Firms with offices in Savannah, Atlanta, and Statesboro. Kim's Cafe at 714 MLK Jr. Boulevard. Chef Food and Gas. Don't ride by, stop by. And One Price Clean is located in the Farmers Market in Garden City on Highway 80. And so we're going to give each one of you 1 minute to give what you think, seeds of inspiration, seeds of encouragement, seeds of a process with regards to us getting better with regard to this and being able to have solutions. So we start with Sister Sabrina.
I think you need to talk to your children about racism from the beginning, from when they're little. Normalize that it actually happens, that it is typical. Provide that outlet so when it does happen, they know how to properly report it to you. And ensure that they have a support system. If something happens, how do they handle it? How do they go forth? How do they get over it? Because when an incident does happen, understand that it does affect them mentally. It may affect the parents. It may affect job. It may, interfere with their performance and diminish their self-confidence as well. So I think that they have to have that outlet and that support behind them.
Okay. Brother Shaka.
My apologies. I think going from there, the next step is to help surround them with a community. You mentioned the Davis Bozeman Law Firm. Brother Molly Davis is a mentor of mine. He actually taught me how to organize in the community. And that was when I was young out of college. And so that's really when I started to engulf myself into who I was. I went to an HBCU and they did teach me how to love myself, but it wasn't until I met Brother Molly when I was really challenged to read books and learn things. And I helped him organize around the topic of reparations. And so having a community around you so that you're not just isolated at home. Now what was just mentioned is done. Now, who is your community? What church or synagogue or, place of worship do you attend? What teams are your children playing for? Who are their coaches? All of those things then add another layer of protection to our young people when they're trying to deal with racism.
All right. Sister Deidre.
So we said this at the beginning, really educating them on who they are, how great they are, and explain to them that racism is not your job to fix, but helping them understand that, you have the ability to influence your peers that may not look like you in order to join in the fight to dismantle these systems of oppression, right? And I also believe, because I'm a firm advocate in being in everything that any of my children do. So when I walk into the school, they know exactly who I am and they know exactly what I stand for. And I think even in a college setting, right, you have to, while they are navigating this awkward time between teenage and adult years, helping them understand that, hey, I'm going to take this step back, but just know I'm here to support you, because that's the community that you're in now, and they should be able to support you. But if not, I joke with anybody, but my kids know I will put that Suburban on 2 wheels and I'm coming. So I think that that's what we have to ensure that we do, as well as, helping them understand that it's okay for them to tell their people or the teachers that they can't do this to them.
Okay. Brother Andre.
Hey, so I just have 3 things. One, just make sure that we're there to advocate for our children, when they experience things in school, when they're a little too young to advocate for themselves, and that we know how to do it in a professional and polished manner, because people treat your children differently when they know that you will show up in that classroom, in that front office. The second thing I want to say is teach your children about having a critical consciousness and leveraging our economic power. What I mean by that is the corner store. If you go in the corner store, and if the community is 100% African-American, but in the corner store, it's an ethnic group that's there and they have not hired not one African-American, you should rethink about spending your money in a place that will not employ folks from that community. You have to teach kids that, like, this is why we're not going there, because they're not hiring people from this community. We want to support either Black businesses or businesses that employ Black people. That's something simple you can start helping them see. And then we want to support small businesses. Corporations are cool, but then corporations sometimes put the small business people out of business, helping them develop that sense of community from an economic standpoint. And the last thing I'll say is this, and this is covered in a lot of books that deal with this fear of talking about race, particularly issues of white privilege. We have to help our young people and even some of our adults understand this. Racism is a system. And sometimes we attribute so much of it to he's prejudiced, she's prejudiced, individuals. You're operating within a system, a structure, and so that's important, because things that we experience are the result of a system that's in place, not necessarily a person. The cop can be fired, but the system that cop is a part of is still in place. A judge can be, recused from a trial, but the system is still in place. And so we have to help our young people understand, hey, this is a system that's in place, and just be wise, because know that there are traps laid to get you caught up in that system. So you have to be smarter than that and not always go the route that everybody is going in the neighborhood. So I'll close with that.
Okay. All right. And so our time is up, because y'all know Ron Tell That is the little brother show of all the shows on Our Black Media. So we only got 55 minutes or so. Our time is up. So I was going to throw the question out there, so important to everyone on this show. The question is, what's the best high school in the entire country? I'll answer for everyone. Brother Andre say Herschel V. Jenkins High School, 1800 East Durant Avenue. And Dr. Deidre Grimm say it is Herschel V. Jenkins High School also. Brother Shaka say, of course, it's HBJ. And Sister Sabrina say, it's HBJ. The Warriors, home of the Warrior territory right here in the house. Heavens B. Jenkins High School. God is the first alum at HBJ. Glad to have all y'all on Run Tell That. Check out all the shows on Our Black Media. And we signing out right now. The rap is about to come up. Peace and blessings. See, the producer ain't even doing anything yet. See how you do.
Like this. Like this. Like this. Like this. Like this. like this. I like this. I like this. I like this. I like this.